Hey everyone, Brian Zane here from Wrestling with Regret. I'm backstage at the Wrestling Media Con in Manchester, England. I'm joined by former NWA Worlds Heavyweight Champion, former TNA World Champion, and a tall drink of water, Nick Aldis. Mr. Aldis, thank you so much for doing this interview. Of course, you're from the UK here, and right now the UK is seeing a boom in the wrestling scene that's really kind of unprecedented. Talk to me about your time when you first started wrestling in this area compared to how it is now and the popularity we're seeing here.
I don't know if I'd say it's unprecedented. I'd say that
in a long time, I should say.
Yeah, it's we there have obviously been very, very popular periods for our business here, and I would say that even when I broke in, there was still a lot of wrestling. It was a very healthy scene. I think that just perhaps it didn't have a strong online presence, which as much as I love our online community, they have a tendency to over embellish their importance at times. Because all I'll say is that my first year full-time as a wrestler at 18, I probably wrestled 250 shows, and most of them were full. So it's just we weren't bragging about it on social media, so it's like we were just too busy working. So, but with that being said, we certainly didn't have the worldwide acclaim. That's the difference now, is that thanks to the initial, obviously there were guys way back like the Bulldogs and then Regal and guys like that who made a name for themselves in the US and worldwide, and even before that with Billy Robinson or Mark Rocco, people like that who traveled the world. But in our generation, I was fortunate to be part of this wave of guys who refused to accept limitation and said, no, I can go to the States. I can go all over the world. And not only that, I can be a world champion. And we sort of kicked the door down for the rest of the boys to follow us in. And that's a good feeling to see now, to see how not just popular the scene is, but how revered it is on the world stage. Like it used to be the major wrestling countries were North America, Mexico, and Japan, and now the UK is the fourth, and that's a good feeling to know. Like I played a small part in that, and I think that if nothing else, my legacy on the business can be that I showed the Brits, who came after me, like it can be done. Like you don't just have to be a token British guy. You can be the top guy. It doesn't matter that you're from Britain.
250 matches in your first year, you said?
Something like that. I mean, I don't know for sure, but I would venture something like that. I mean, it was 6 days a week, and often we would work twice.
My first year in the business, about 15 matches. I didn't quite do the same things you did, obviously. It's now, of course, you held the NWA Worlds Championship for several months. Before you had the title, I guess when you first heard that Billy Corgan purchased the NWA, what were your initial thoughts? Because the NWA before was kind of seen as kind of a...
Let's talk about your initial thoughts.
Oh, well,
I've seen the clip.
Yes, well, I think it was one of the more even keel ones.
Who's the NWA champion?
Yeah, okay. Yeah, no, I'm eating my words for sure. But no, I was always optimistic that,
Oh, yeah.
Well,
you were dripping with optimism that day.
What you didn't see in that clip was how I said what they need to do is...
Billy Corgan has purchased the NWA.
Yep. This is
what?
Cue silly face. I always said that what Billy needed to do was make the championship relevant, and I think that he did that in the last year. So talk to me about when you first held the championship. What did it mean to you to be the NWA champion and beat Tim Storm for it, hold it for as long as you did?
I took it as a challenge, but I also did respect the championship, and I think that people understood that. And it's a two-way street. I respected the championship because I respected the men who had held it. And for good or for bad, people respected me. So the fact that I held it and I revered it, it then translates to the next generation of guys and the next generation of fans. And look, it's in the way we presented our content. We reminded people of who held that championship, and unlike, for lack of another example, the WWE championship, it's the same championship belt. So in that respect, it's like the Stanley Cup, or to use a football analogy, like the FA Cup or something. It's the same championship. So to be able to have frame by frame a timeline of like Harley holding it, Flair holding it, Dusty holding it, or Jack Briscoe holding it, and then all the way to me. There's you immediately have that link of like, oh, okay, there's a genuine thing there. You can't make up history, and unless you're Billy Corgan, you can't buy history either.
Exactly. Now, you've been a one-time TNA World Champion, one-time NWA World Champion. Talk to me about, comparing where you were in your career at those different points in time and what each championship reign/victory meant to you at that time.
Well, the old adage is that, does the championship make the man or does the man make the championship? And I think in TNA, their mentality was that the championship would make me. Whereas with the NWA Championship, I took it as it was my responsibility to make the championship. And as a result, it made me as well. You have to feel it. You have to believe it. In TNA, I stuck it out because I wanted to see it through to the end. But unfortunately, the circumstances were what they were at that time. And no one can sort of control what someone else is going to do with their career. And unfortunately, me winning the championship coincided with AJ Styles leaving, which was like, almost like the heart of the company in that incarnation of it being ripped out. And you can't control that. It wasn't my decision. Obviously, I had no influence on that, but it was like,
B on you. Where did B come from in here?
The sun's come out for the first time. That's why. So he's on you now.
Me now. The B is on me.
Wait, hold on.
You get it? Did you get it? All right.
I just made it angry.
I'll interview the B next to calm it down.
Yeah, AJ leaving was was such a monumental sort of shift in terms of how that brand at that time was viewed, that there was no way that I was going to, that there was no way that my championship reign was going to be associated with anything else. Once I understood that, I just had to make peace with it and move on. What people don't like to talk about is that while I had the championship there, the ratings went up, the houses went up, and things like that. But again, our beloved online community, they like to be right and they want to be right, so they ignore when they ignore facts sometimes, but we love them anyway. Yeah. I just saw I knew that I wasn't going to re-sign. I had a year left, and I knew that they weren't going to be able to match what they were paying me, and there was nothing else to keep me there. So the whole mentality of like where I was in my career versus where the company was it was almost like a complete opposite, because here I was essentially sort of starting to peak at a time where the wheels were falling off of a company. Whereas here, it's like now I'm really comfortable hitting my stride, and I'm part of a startup. Like for all intents and purposes, the NWA is really Billy, Dave Lagana, and me, and then on the fringe a few other key people. So the responsibility is on me, and the reward will be mine to earn if we can do it together. It's not a case of 20 different people taking credit for it and a bunch of other people earning money off of my bumps and my sweat. We're all going to benefit from this together. So and that's looking at the Cody match, it was the biggest match of my career, and we did it from a YouTube show, and we had no agents, no creative team, no sort of pointless executives all sort of patting themselves on the back for something they had nothing to do with. This was the right people in the right place at the right time working together to create a moment, and we did it. That's what the business is all about.
Speaking of All In, considered to be the biggest independent show of at least this generation. In your words, what did the success of All In represent to you?
It represents that our generation understand on a fundamental level what it takes to be successful in this business, and how so much of the current product is over-engineered, and there are a lot of people making money off, really parasites making money off of off of the real work is done by the talent who have Because to be good at this, especially today, you can't just, it's not just about being good in the ring, or it's not just about being good on the microphone. You have to have the ability to produce. You know, the guys now, like, so it went from sending 8x10s in the mail to a promoter, to my generation it was email promotional pictures and maybe a YouTube, like maybe a video of a match. Now guys have to produce their own vignettes, you know, and it's the DIY era, in that the days of sort of overlord personalities in wrestling taking someone, we're going to anoint this person, you know, to be, he's going, you know, now anyone can present themselves, you know, with their talent and their ability if they have the chutzpah to actually make it happen and do the work. You know, that's where do the work came from with, you know, with Cody and everything, because it was that he knew that he had it in him. You know, I knew I had it in me. And when we met, it was very quickly we understood, like, we needed each other, you know, to create that moment. And that this is nothing new, you know. This is not any revolutionary information. It's just was forgotten by my generation because we were told something else by people who make a comfortable living doing not a lot. So we got told, like, no, you just worry about that and we'll worry about this and everything. And then there was a few of us who went, but I want to do all this stuff too. I want to be involved in the whole process. And when you're involved in the whole process, for good or for bad, you're responsible. You're not left with these gray areas where you go, I just know if we'd have done it like this would have worked. Like, take for example, I do this, you know, I finally relent with Impact, and I let them, you know, use my wife in a storyline. I'd resisted and resisted and resisted. We do one with Bram, and it's real, because he really is my best friend. We really have, you know, gone way back. We really have been through a lot together. So it works. So then what do? Hey, let's do another one. And let's do it with James Storm. Well, what's the link there? Oh, you know, we're going to push her in front of a train. What? You know, and suddenly, and look what happens, you know, and because someone else takes control of it, and it's, you know, and that's what happened. Whereas we're entering into an era now where guys are going to wrestle more control back. And again, it's very fitting that it's, you know, the NWA who's sort of at the forefront of this, because that's what that represented. Yeah. You know, it was a lot of guys who had their own influence, had their own ability to, you know, to draw, could just go, okay, I'm going to move on and go somewhere else. And guys like Harley, like I trained with Harley a little while, and he's a man's man, you know, and he would say, if it doesn't work for you, you know, don't do it. You know what I mean? Like, and that's you have to be like that. It can't be this sort of, we own you, so you do whatever we tell you to. If you know in your heart, because this is the same business, by the way, that also want you to be independent contractors, be 1099s, but also do exactly what we tell you. You got to find a compromise here. And where we're at now is a bunch of guys going, I'm happy to be an independent contractor and take full responsibility for myself financially, but that means I take full responsibility for who I am as well, how I'm presented.
It's like being your own advocate, so to speak. That's kind of the era we seem to be in now. Now, speaking of Mickie James, you know, she's a full-time wrestler. You're a full-time wrestler. You're raising a child together. How do you find that balance of work and family life with two full-time wrestlers?
With difficulty. You know,
what's the secret to your success?
Well, I don't know if there is a secret. You know, it's a constantly, it's a very fluid thing. You know, it's tackling it as it comes. For no matter what happens with us, you know, in terms of our relationship, what you have to do, in my opinion, is we put our son first, because regardless of anything else, you know, what's the most important thing to me is that he has a good life and he's raised the right way. After that, it's up to, you know, everybody in life makes a choice about where their priorities lie as far as their career advancement and their personal life. Yeah. And that, you know, again, you can only control really how you feel. You know, you can and work around with people who are important to you. You work around their their priorities, and like I say, it's a constantly fluid thing. You just work it out day to day.
All right, final question. What's next on the horizon for one Nick Aldis?
NWA 70, the 70th anniversary of the NWA, Nashville, Tennessee, October 21st.
All right, can't wait to see that, Mr. Aldis. Thank you so much for your time. I appreciate any social media you want to plug besides, of course, 10 pounds of gold and NWA 70.
Well, you can follow me on Twitter at @RealNickAldis. Same on Facebook, and then on Instagram, I'm @NickAldis. Some other bastard took that for Twitter because I was Magnus Official for a while.
Is it one of those like role play accounts? Like, hey, pretended? Oh God, those are the worst. Those are the worst things on social media.
Almost as bad as those people that just bury stuff before they even have a chance to see it grow and succeed. Like those experts who just predict with their crystal balls.
Yeah. Yep,
I don't know who I'm talking about.
No, I have no idea who you could be talking about. But for Mr.
Have you ever met Tim Storm?
No.
So, you want to talk about a man's man.
Yeah.
He could rip you limb from limb.
I don't doubt that.
But he won't because he's a sweetheart.
That I also don't doubt.
He's a big brick-headed bastard. He'll get a guy like you and just eat him for lunch.
Well, for Mr. Aldis and for Wrestling MediaCon, I'm Brian Zane. I'll see you next time.